just don't give up. Keep trying different things. So, during it all, it was, and her parents were amazing with that too. But it was, all right, well, let's go get you in front of a doctor. Let's go get you in a group. Let's get you in. Let's go to AA meetings. Let's do this. Let's do that. And when something fails, it's not that, man, this is just gonna, nothing's gonna fix this. You just need to find what works for you.
Stories are powerful.
Welcome to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast, brought to you by The Phoenix. This is a space where people impacted by substance use can come to share their story of strength and resilience, get open and honest, and inspire hope and build community through shared experience.
We'll be talking to people in our community on their own recovery journey and shine a light on the topic of recovery in all its forms. Maybe you'll hear some of your story in theirs.
Let's show the world that together we rise, recover, and live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Rise, Recover, Live, the podcast. I am your host, Bryce III, and this is my wonderful co-host, Liz, and we have a special, I had to say it like 4 times, guest today. And Liz, do you want to kind of like run down why today's guest is so special and why you are in the same room?
I would love to. Yeah, this is our first ever episode with 2 people on one mic, which is, special in itself, and we've already learned a lot technology-wise. So first of all, hi, everybody. Thank you for being here for the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. I'm Liz, and just could not be more grateful that you've decided to spend a little bit of time with us today. This is an extra special. I'm going to leave all the extras
Yeah,
out.
You missed a couple of extras. I said it 4 times.
I think you covered it. So I'll leave those out, but they're in my heart because our guest today is our first supporter of folks who are in recovery, and he is in particular my biggest supporter. This is my husband, Billy, and just beyond grateful for his generosity in sharing some of his story, some of our story, and really his experience in our story. And I anticipate there's going to be things that I haven't even heard. So part of me is incredibly nervous and also really, really excited. And anytime I am nervous, the thing that makes me less nervous is that, he's here with me. So I get that extra.
My freaking heart. Billy, what's up, man? Like I said before we hopped on the show, I've heard so much about you. The support has bled through conversations, and the way that Liz is able to show up in all of her multiple roles. She's always mentioning you as a support, as a cheerleader, as a rock, and I am absolutely overwhelmed with joy that you're here on the show today. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I always like to start the show out just by asking, how's your energy today?
Good. Very good. Yeah, it's a beautiful day, beautiful day here in Florida. We're actually off this week. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. So
nice.
Extra special. Yeah. So,
congratulations. What'd you all do for the anniversary?
Thank you. We, we don't live far from the beach, but, we don't get a chance to spend a ton of time there as much as we would like. So we got an Airbnb and just stayed on the beach for 2 nights.
Nice.
That was awesome.
Yeah. I'd love to stay on the beach in an Airbnb right about now. I think I'm about due for it. I think you might have just planted the seeds.
Yeah. Well, Tampa's calling. Yeah, we got some of the most beautiful beaches out here, and yeah, it is something extra, like just, I don't even know, luxurious about being able to drive, like less than an hour to go to a place, but then still feel that disconnected and be able to just stare at the water. And we had our honeymoon on a beach 10 years ago today. We were sitting on a beach in the Caribbean, and it's just been such a full circle because let me tell you, 10 years ago today, we definitely wouldn't have done the kind of things that we did on this little vacation. We got up at 6 a.m. to see the sunrise. We did a little bit of yoga. We, just enjoyed things in a very sober way, which was such a gift. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't how it was back then because Billy had the the front row seat to a lot of the hardest times for me. So that's a big reason why we're having this conversation, because I think and I hope and I appreciate that there's a lot of people part of the Phoenix community and just the recovery community period who were there or are maybe right now going through a loved one who is struggling with substance use. And that's probably the biggest question that I get from folks when I start talking about recovery publicly is like, my sister, my mom, my husband, anybody this is happening to them right now. Like, what can I do? Like, how can I help? And, I have answers that, things that helped me, usually the things that Billy did. But I think, he's going to be able to speak to that much more than, us on the other side could.
Yeah, no doubt. And so, Liz, I'm not sure if you count days. I was listening to the Courtney episode, and she called us day counters, right? So I just hit my 9 years yesterday, but I don't know if I've ever heard you say this is the amount of time that I have. So do you count days or not?
No, I don't really, very on purpose. I've been about 4 years, but I always have to kind of pause and think about it because that's something that I did for a really long time. And then I'd get to a certain point and feel like, okay, I did it. That's long enough, and that would be a problem. And then also like the times that I would relapse, that I would drink again, I would feel like, well, I lost it all. I lost that time. So I might as well go big, and I found that mental model, which is not the case for a lot of people. I know counting is really powerful for a lot of folks. For me, I realized that it wasn't serving me. And so I let it go, and I just take every day, enjoy every day as it comes.
Yeah, I think the reason that I ask is that I know how unimportant time is, especially when we're focusing on the most important time that we have, which is today. Especially when it comes to recovery, I can't sustain today's recovery off of yesterday's work. And I've also learned that time for me gives me a bit of perspective, allows me to put things in a context. And so when you say, it's our 10-year anniversary, and 10 years ago, it was something totally different, and then you say 4 years of living life in this way, I think that allows for us to look at, okay, what was it 5-6 years ago, and how much of a stride have we made in our relationship that allows for us to show up differently today than maybe 4 years ago. So what are some, Billy, this question is for you, what are some of the most noticeable differences on a trip, like an anniversary trip to the beach now than they were maybe 4 or 5 or 6 years ago?
I mean, really everything. So it all started with day one. So when we met at a music festival, and, through friends, but that was just what we did. We got together, we were drinking, getting to know each other, having fun as a group. And that's just kind of how our relationship kind of began. It's how our friendship began. Our first date was a picnic where I brought a few bottles of champagne. We had, picnic. We took a walk on the canal. We drank, and it just kind of became kind of who we were, and every time we hung out, it was a celebration. And, how do you celebrate with drinking? So, and nowadays we enjoy our time, better. It's not, hiding behind alcohol or, hey, we've got our, third or fourth drink and now we can have fun. We don't need to do that. So it's just, things have changed.
I think something that you said, every time we got together is a celebration, and that for some reason hit my little heartstrings, because I think even and how you say that, how do we celebrate, with alcohol, with drinking? But do you feel like there's still that aspect of celebration in when you come together?
Absolutely. Yeah. So to kind of go even back from the beginning. So that's, kind of how our relationship was just, and I come from a family where my family drank a lot. I, became 21 even before I became 21, go to college. Drinking was just kind of what you do. I'm a big sports fan, as you can see by my Bills hat. Used to have season tickets, and, even going to those games, it was all about how many beers can we have before we go into the game. And just, it's amazing how you kind of get lost in it. And it's the norm because everyone around you is doing that. And, it's never, well, I don't have a problem. We don't have a problem. It's the normal thing to do. So, and through the years, it just became more and more. And I mean, it was get home from work and, it turned into, cracking open our second or third bottle of wine while we watch TV shows and watch movies. And just everything was, hey, let's go pour another glass. And so, and nowadays we don't need that, so we've discovered, I guess rediscovered ourselves. We've gotten healthy, and that's kind of a big thing with, we've exercising and going on nightly walks. So in the time that we used to spend sitting on a couch, drinking 2 or 3 bottles of wine, now we are out enjoying the river, out walking every night in Tampa Bay. We got our puppy, and that's kind of become our celebration. So it's just amazing how it's changed.
I think, I look back at like those times when we did sit on the couch and just drink bottle after bottle of wine, and, it just became such a normal thing for us, but it was an obscene amount of alcohol, like looking back at it. But it was just our fun thing, it was like our special thing that we did together. But also, when you get sober, you look back and realize the ways that you were manipulative and you didn't even realize how manipulative you were being, even if it, intentional or not. And I know since the day we met, it was all about like, you just live to make me happy. And I mean, in the most, wonderful, just the most wonderful man I've ever met in my entire life. And I've never known anyone that's been so committed to another person's happiness except for my mom and dad. So I think there were times that even before it became obviously a problem, there were times that I feel like would just give a little nudge of like, maybe this isn't something we need to do quite as much all the time. And I would have a reaction to that would immediately, you would retreat because you just wanted to make me happy, and I don't know. I'm just curious to know if you want to talk about any times that you feel like maybe there was some manipulation there, maybe when you would have liked to put on the brakes, but you just weren't sure how, because I had a reaction when you wanted to stop.
Oh, so, and to be honest, the drinking, we were doing it a lot. But Liz, as I discovered throughout, after we got married and stuff, she suffers from anxiety, panic disorder, and was starting to, have some panic attacks and have high anxiety. And her coping mechanism was always drinking. So, and it was, I could always tell when she was really struggling, but it took a few years until I realized that she was struggling all the time, and that drinking every night was making it easier for her to get through the day and get through the night. It was calming her anxiety a little bit. It was also making her anxiety worse. So, waking up the next day, struggling because, being hungover and wondering when you're going to get your next drink. But I spent many years of our marriage thinking it was the anxiety and that the alcohol was her coping mechanism and not the problem. And it took a while till we really realized that it was a combination. It was equal parts anxiety and equal parts alcohol. And, I never thought I had a problem. but looking back, I absolutely did, and it's easy to see that now. And it's great. Like right now I manage a bar, I'm the GM at an Irish pub, really popular one right here in downtown Tampa. And, I don't drink, so it's amazing to see the other side, now that we're both sober, and just how healthy we are. It's really, it's amazing.
No, I definitely agree in the level of amazingness. And so there is an energy that I'm looking to translate into words, because oftentimes with relationships there is the growth or the devolving of one person's um one person's circumstances, and then the other person has to figure out where they fit in the midst of that other person's situation. And so oftentimes you'll see like either one person will decide like, okay, look, I got to change something. And then when that person changes that something, like everything in that person's life changes, and it impacts the relationship in such a way that it begins this conversation where like, well, do we really like connect? Do we really fit? Like, or, how much of how it is that I used to be plays a role into why we got together and why we were developing what we were developing. And so what I'm hearing is kind of like, there was some realizations in Liz's life, but it also sounds, Billy, like there were some realizations in your life as well. And it seems to me from the outside looking in, like maybe both of you all's journey aligned in such a way that there was some question asking in both of your lives simultaneously at the same time, and you continue to grow together. So what was that process like? Was there ever a point in your life, Liz, where it was like, oh, I'm going through it, but Billy's not, and like, was there ever like a disproportionate experience where it felt like, Billy, you had to show up for Liz in a way that you didn't think that you had to show up for yourself? Or like, was there, like, how were you able to keep things aligned in your journeys, I guess is the question that I'm trying to ask.
Well, just like anything in recovery, it was completely linear and it went smoothly, and we were just on the same track the entire time. Exactly the opposite of that. Yeah, no, I think, well, for just a long time, it was all about me. It just, had to be all about me. I mean, there were a lot of starts and stops, and there was years where it was like, am I going to make it? Like there was times that I don't know about you, but I didn't know if I would survive, this, this substance use disorder. And so all hands had to be on deck for me, that there were times that things would start going really well. I would have put together months and months of time, and then, and like, you got a great new job, and, I was doing well in mine. And then I would just go off the rails and just take us completely off the rails. And it would, again, have to be all about me. Now we're back to struggling financially. Now we're back to doctor's appointments like crazy, trying to figure out, if medication is something that I need, and having, my family be with me all the time, because, I couldn't even trust myself. And so like in the thick of it, I think it was so all about me. And then once I did get to the point that I was sober, and, it's now, I think we both feel really steady in that. In my recovery, it's been a challenge too, to figure out how to have it be about both of us, and how to be, equal partners again, where, we're both trustworthy people that I can help, I can be part of our life, and, in a productive way. And I think we're there, but there's still some days that it's still like a constant conversation, like healing those little wounds, that happened over all that amount of time. You answer that question too.
So the big thing with our journey is, I mean, she's the most important person in my life. I knew that when I met her. I mean, literally the night after I met her, I told, my best friend that I was going to marry that girl someday. And so when she was struggling and when I needed to, when our lives literally had to stop and we had to make an adjustment, we had to move out an apartment and move back in with our parents, for a short period of time. Like that was fine. You know what I mean? Like it was because it was what we needed to do for my wife. And I was able to make that adjustment. Her family's been just amazing. So, when things have been real bad, when, there was, hiding of alcohol and drinking and, being incredibly intoxicated in the middle of the day. And it was like, all right, well, now this is an emergency. Me being able to have them, being able to call her parents and be like, right now is like, this is where it's getting serious. And, for her mom to jump on a plane and be here, in 3 hours and be here for us was huge. It was everything. So having that support system, but it was, it's funny through everything. And, like the hardest times were, there was a lot of lying, and a lot of hiding of alcohol. That was really the difficult part. And to me, even, you catch it and stuff like that. I always thought it was the anxiety and, that was her coping. And I still think that was a big part of it. But really she was craving alcohol too. That was, something that it took me many years to realize that was one of the biggest issues. But she was my most important person, and so no matter what. So when we determined, cause we'd stop drinking for a while and then it would be like, because I thought it was the anxiety and not the drinking. We'd, want to celebrate something. I'd get a promotion or, and it's like, she'd kind of put the, be like, I think I'm okay. I'm okay now. And it's like, okay, well, let's, tonight, well, we can have a few drinks. Cause I really, I thought I missed it too, and being able to kind of go back and have a few drinks and enjoy that. And then things would just unravel again. And it would kind of be starting all over. But I mean, when we've really determined that it was done and we were, it was a drinking problem and she was going to stop drinking. I had no problem, doing the same because, she was my most important person. And it was, it wasn't selfish. It wasn't, it wasn't, it was an easy decision for me. And everything's been an easy decision. Anything that we've needed to do, any money we've needed to spend, any changes in our lives we needed to make. It was, either do it and, get my wife healthy and in the right place and have us be great, or don't, and then what? Then the marriage is over and, we can't go on like that. So it was... It's really
so it seems to me like you all's relationship really affected you in such a way that was kind of your motivation for changing up the lifestyle. So do you feel that Liz's experience influenced you in such a way that it was like, okay, maybe I need to look at these things for myself? Or do you think that the main motivation for you was the relationship to make sure whatever this relationship requires, I'm gonna show up for it?
Yep. It was definitely, I mean, the relationship, I was willing to do anything for that relationship. Now, looking back, the changes that we had to make for her really just benefited me.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So it's amazing. How you just, when we got married, I was 250 pounds. We met, I was 220. I mean, I haven't been under 200 pounds in, since I was 16 years old, and completely cut drinking out of my life. Don't really change a whole lot else. And, like I'm healthy, like I wake up and, it's easier to wake up every morning. It's my bones don't hurt. I'm not, it's just, you just feel better, and it's something that I had to stop drinking, which I probably never would have done, if she didn't have a problem, because it's just, that's the way I was raised, I grew up, that's what you do, and you go to a barbecue, you have a few beers, and, it's amazing how, this all, really it's the best part of everything is how our lives have changed for the better.
I have a question. Like, I'm wondering, like you've said, for our whole lives, you've said, and just now you've said that, I was your most important person. And so stopping, and changing our lives and all these things it was a no-brainer. And I know that just like anything, if you haven't experienced something within your own, mind and body, it's hard to understand somebody else experiencing it. Because you're my most important thing. Like you're more, you're just my most important thing. Can't say it in other ways without crying. But I couldn't stop for you. I couldn't change for you. Like there were a lot of years where I would promise, and then I would not keep that promise. Sometimes that promise was a lie from the start,
Mm-hmm.
And that had to really suck. Like that had to suck to know that you would do anything for me. And I just couldn't do this one thing for you that, like, why not? Like, just stop. Like, how are you able to wrap your mind around that?
Well, because you were going through, yes, we've had so many conversations where it was, you told me, you promised me you weren't going to do this again. And here we are, I find these little bottles and, you're non-responsive and just in a really bad place. And yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking, what are we doing here? Like my wife's lying to me. She promised me that she wouldn't do it again. And then here we are for the 20th time, going through that. But I also knew that you needed help, that your anxiety was at the time out of control, that your drinking was out of control. And, you were such an amazing person and your whole life is always about taking care of other people. So, in this moment you needed support, and I wasn't going to abandon you. So it was hard. It was difficult, but it was just something, something I had to do, so, and things changed, there were a lot of nights that, you'd go to bed early and you'd be passed out and, I just would have to continue, and you always said, one of the biggest things that helped her out, through all of this was that I didn't stop living my life. So while she's going through that, I still went to work. And, if she needed me, I could, I would get away. I would, come home or whatever. But I continued to live my life. I continued to do the things that I enjoyed to do. Now, most of, our life, like most of the things that I enjoy are the things that we do together. But, I'd still, watch movies that I wanted to watch, still go to the movies, still, go out to lunch. And, for a while, even, when I didn't quit drinking totally, that would be the time I wouldn't ever drink around you. But if I would had the day off, I would, walk to lunch and have a drink with lunch and, still go to sporting events and watch sporting events. And I just didn't stop living my life because you needed me to, just because then we both would have been in a bad place. So I continue to keep myself healthy, and to do the things that I needed to do to be healthy and there for us. And then be there for you.
Showed me that it was possible. You just showed me that you could, that it was possible to get up in the morning and to go to work, and that, you know, the world actually wasn't stopped, and this life thing that felt so impossible wasn't impossible. Like, you could have just like laid down and died with me. Like, we could have just both just gone totally down. But yeah, that was a really big deal. I remember just watching you get up in the morning and go to work as if things were like that level of hope to be able to get up and get in the car and go to work was something I couldn't even fathom. And that was a real gift.
So for those watching this video on YouTube, if you scroll back maybe like 5 minutes, you might have seen some tears coming out your boy's eyes. I am damn near tearing up. This is because I've had an experience, and I'm sure we've all had different experiences, and like not everybody's story sounds like this. You know, not everybody's story aligns like this. There's a lot of codependency that could play a role into, you know, the person who is really struggling and the person that's showing up for that person, you know. And then when that person who's struggling stops struggling, the person who was showing up for that person is like, well, where's my purpose? Because, you know, like my whole purpose was to show up for you when you were struggling. Like, now I'm bored. What's going on? You know, and there's just a whole bunch of other different mixes that make it to where like this thing can kind of perpetuate for so long. But it just sounds like there was a lot of health and support present in the way that Billy, you showed up for Liz, and the way that Liz, now you're able to show up for Billy. And I think it's just a beautiful story. What would be your advice or suggestions, Billy specifically, for someone who is looking to show up for someone who may be going through a tough time? Because I know also another story is where, you know, the person who's going through the tough time and the person showing up for that person, like, just doesn't understand. So it's like, why don't you just stop? Like, why are you lying to me? Like, why don't you just stop drinking? Like, I can stop and I can go to work and I can do these things. Why you can't do it? You know? So what would be your suggestion or advice to somebody who may be currently going through trying to show up for their partner, and maybe they just don't understand what it is that their partner is going through, how to continue to show up?
Through my life, I'm somebody who, you know, I'm for the most part very positive. I've been fortunate to not really suffer from anxiety, or, you know, so, you know, when Liz and I got married and the anxiety and the panic attacks started showing up, I had no clue what those were. I had no understanding. It was hard to kind of comprehend. You know, we had been gone to the hospital multiple times because she thought she was having a heart attack. And to have that conversation, like, honey, you're okay. Like, you're just breathe. And I can't tell you how many times I said that to her, not really realizing that it's not that easy. So my biggest advice is to keep an open mind. So, you know, your experiences aren't the only experiences in the world. And just because I don't suffer from anxiety, it doesn't mean that it's not a real thing. Or, you know, just because I think I can go a day without drinking, or, oh, I can have 3 drinks and not have a problem, that it doesn't mean that somebody else is in that same boat. So just keep an open mind, and, you know, learn as much as you can and try not to make the same mistake twice. So, you know, and by that, you know, being, stop telling my wife to just breathe. Everything's going to be fine. Stop. It's going to be okay. And to understand how, you know, difficult it is. So that would be my, you know, big takeaway is just to keep an open mind. And if you love somebody and if you need to be there and want to be there for them, it's unconditional, you know? So, no matter what it takes and no matter what it was going to take to get her to a good place, I was going to be there. You know, and we'll figure out where we are at the end, you know? So I wasn't going to leave her in the middle of it. You know, And I remember even saying that, being like, this is it. This is the last time. And I know when I said that, I didn't really mean that. And I had said that a bunch of times too, so,
like, this is like, I'm leaving.
this is it. Yeah. This is it. Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, how many times do we got to end up in a hospital and, so, I knew I wasn't going to just leave her. But that I still said that, and I did have a breaking point. Luckily I've got a long fuse, I guess, is one way of putting it. And, I'm fortunate too. I mean, she's just the most important person in my life, and I wasn't going to abandon her.
Yeah.
Or.
And I
So
just want to throw in there too, like for those listening, like, not everybody's story is the same. And I know in my experience, I could look back in hindsight. It's like, yo, why didn't, because like now, like I'm not going to I wouldn't be able to tolerate what I put somebody through, and it's like, there was multiple times I look back in my story. It's like, damn, why didn't you leave? Did it benefit me that she didn't? Yes. Did it help me to get to a point to where I was willing to ask for help myself? Yes. But was it the best? I think, like, if it was me, if I was her, like, would I have stayed? Hell no. So love is weird and it takes us through twists and turns. But like, to the audience listening, like, if there is, we have to prioritize ourselves. So if there is, abuse, if there is, stuff that is like, yeah, but I love them and I don't want to give up on them. What we need as your loved ones the most is to see you love yourself. And I think, like Liz shared, like, I needed to see somebody get up and go to work. I needed to see somebody be able to enjoy life in their own life, in their own ways. I didn't need somebody up under me like, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you good? I needed to see somebody operating. And that's, like, I think, as somebody on Liz's side of the spectrum, I think that is the biggest influence that rubbed off on me, was to see somebody, like, not prioritize me. And it's like, wait, so you mean this is something I got to figure out? And then that kind of, so the first thing, and I'll end with this, the first thing that I was told very early on, I went to rehab. And when I got to rehab, this guy, one of the nurse's assistants, he was like, hey, yeah, man, what you got going on? What you here for? And I'm like, yeah, man, I got kids. And he stopped me right there. He's like, yeah, but you're not in here for him. You're not in here for them. You're in here for yourself. Your kids can't be anything unless you can be 100% for yourself. And it's like, oh, like early on, it was told to me, like, oh, I can't do this for my kids. I can't do this for, my girl at the time, their mom. I can't do this for my mom. I can't do this for anybody but myself. And that allowed me to really, like, focus on being able to be whole and complete for the people in my life. And I think the people who influenced me were whole and complete for me, without, like, trying to push something on me or without trying to nurture and coddle me. Yeah. So I just wanted to throw that in there. But
I totally agree. Like, I would, as awful as the experience was on the, substance use side, I 1,000 times would choose this side over the side of the person who loves somebody like me. Cause holy crap. Like, the things, it's not like I had any control, but I at least could, like, pretend I did, like Billy and my family there was no control, and there was no, like, I feel like so many people who are in the family, the, like, supporter end, they just so desperately want to know, what is that? What can I do? What is the right thing to do here? Like, how can I help? How can I fix this? And the answer is that there is literally nothing you can do. Like, until I'm ready, until I decide that for me, it was a big worthiness thing. Like, it's when I'm ready to decide that I'm actually worth saving and, like, living, then I'll be able to take those next steps. And for me personally, having, somebody there who the entire time had been telling me I was, and then on the other side be like, wait, you still think that? You crazy person, you. That was incredible. I had such a soft landing, and I am so fortunate because I think this is not, your typical, not a typical story, but I also think this was, a decade in the making. Like this, it didn't happen overnight. There were a lot of like ups and downs, and at no point was anything Billy was going to say or do going to either make me stop drinking or make me drink. That was entirely happening on the inside. And the fact that all of the choices he made were his choices, it wasn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but it wasn't like this obligation of like, well, I married her, like this is my, I have to. It was like you were choosing, you were getting up every morning and choosing. And if you're a person right now who's supporting somebody who's experiencing this and that's not your choice, that is just as valid, because you can't fix it for the person. Like we got to do it for ourselves. So if you need to go to take care of yourself, like sometimes that can be the thing that is going to be helpful for the person. But there's just like, you're just not the one with the bottle in your hand or the drug or whatever. Like, so as much as it is just the heaviest thing you could possibly go through, it's their responsibility.
And that could be tough
fault
to hear, because it's like, holding on to hope. Hope is like one of the most powerful things that we can hold on to when it comes to dealing with somebody that's going through active addiction, alcoholism. And we can really like, okay, but I know they're gonna get better, and just like, one day is gonna happen, and let me continue to show up. And this could be tough to hear, but the truth is they may never get better. They may never get better. And I'm not saying that there's not redemption for everybody, but like Liz said, it's their choice. And if they continue to choose this road, it's an impersonal thing, because it has nothing to do with you and the love that you have for this person and how much you show up for that person. It is just that person's choice. So once again, like I think this will hold the record for the first episode that I've shed real tears on, because it's so beautiful. I believe in love, tough. I believe in showing up. I believe in, caring for the people that you care for, and just to see like the manifestation of that through you all's relationship, and how your experience benefited you both, and how you both have Phoenix shirts on right now, and how you both have like, your health has increased, and the way that you're able to show up for each other has developed and evolved, and how you can go on a beach for your 10-year anniversary, and you're moving, and all of this great stuff is happening in your life. And it's kind of like that I won't say ending, because I really don't believe there is an end. I believe it's a practice. So we can't say that happy ending, but that you all are practicing recovery. I mean, for lack of better terminology, you all are practicing recovery. You are recovery in action. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And I know the audience will benefit from this episode to see that this is a potential. This is a possibility,
Just like the gratitude that I feel that, for him and for just still being here, and not only just being here as a person who saw me through those hardest times, but also as a person who now is able to not track my phone to see where I am, and not check my breath when I get home from, you know what I mean? Like that trust was rebuilt. And I mean, I know that's work that I did, but like, that's some badass trust. Like that is to be able to have gone through that. And then on the other side, be like, okay, I know that the person that you are is the one that's on the surface now, is incredible. And that's just a whole other journey. That could be a whole other episode in itself, like what the kind of aftermath. And, again, like you said, not that there is an aftermath, it's always a through, and recovery is a day-to-day thing. It's not like, I also feel like the way we talk sometimes is if I'm all better, and that's not a thing either. It's just it's always finding those ways to be okay, and to be safe, and to keep each other safe, and then just to prioritize each other, and shift that focus from all being all about me and us just completely focusing on me all the time. So I think that's something that that we're working on, because
So
really used to be in the
before
spotlight.
we get out of here, is there any more nuggets, any words of advice to people who are dealing maybe with people in active addiction, or who are on the path of reparations and looking to kind of piece things together? What would you all suggest? What are any last nuggets of wisdom that you have for anybody who may be going through these things?
Just don't give up. Keep trying different things. So, during it all, it was, and her parents were amazing with that too. But it was, all right, well, let's go get you in front of a doctor. Let's go get you in a group. Let's get you in. Let's go to AA meetings. Let's do this. Let's do that. And when something fails, it's not that, man, this is just gonna, nothing's gonna fix this. You just need to find what works for you, and everybody is different, so everyone's going to have their thing. And honestly, the Phoenix was one of the things that really did it for Liz. That was the thing that really solidified it. Just having a group of people that were all in the same boat. But it wasn't like a sad get together. It wasn't, that it was just getting together and doing activities and physical activities. And, everyone was sober, and she all of a sudden had a community that was there for her. And I could go as well. That was huge. Because I felt like I was being at that point part of her sobriety too. And that I could show up and be there as a supporter, and there were other supporters there too. So I wasn't the only supporter. That was really grateful for that. And honestly, that was the thing that I think really solidified her recovery, her sobriety. So, and then, since then, I mean, that's why she works for the Phoenix now. And that's, it's because it's meant so much to us. And it still does. So it's just, don't give up. And, for anyone that's a supporter out there, just keep showing up every day, for the people you love. So, yep. And for yourself, and keep doing what you need to do to survive and to go on. It is a beautiful world. There are many things that out there that are awful. And there are times that things are difficult, but just waking up every day and getting to enjoy the sunrise and sunset and be with the people you love is just, it's like magic. So keep doing everything you can to be able to do that every single day, and it's just, I'm grateful. So.
Well, thank you for that nugget of wisdom, Billy, and thank you for your time and for showing up and popping on the podcast. I know people will be able to benefit from this episode. And once again, it probably won't be the last time this will happen, but this was the first time I shed real tears on an episode of Rise, Recover, Live. So definitely a record-setting episode.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on, babe. Thanks, Bryce, for hanging out with us on our anniversary week. And this was, I feel like these are the conversations that are really healing, to be able to talk about it and be really honest about it. Honesty is something that's missing for those years where you're struggling. And so to be able to be honest right now is just a gift every day, even
Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Rise, Recover, Live. And we will catch you on the next episode.
So now you're excited. Bryce, Liz, how do I get involved with the Phoenix? Well, my friend, it is super simple. We actually have an app. Head over to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or look in the show notes of this podcast, wherever you're listening to or watching this podcast, and go download the Phoenix app.
The Phoenix app makes it so easy to find classes that are near you or to access our virtual class schedule where you can hop on from the comfort of your home. You can also join our groups and have a conversation with someone from the Phoenix community from anywhere in the world. Please make sure that you join the podcast group where you can connect with Bryce and I and other listeners. Everything that you need is in the show notes. You can also head to our website at www.thephoenix.org. And maybe while you're there, you click the volunteer tab and get even more involved.